We're doing absolute value. With absolute value, what it really means is that it's talking about distance. So if I had, for example, the absolute value of x equals to 3, what that's saying is that if I have it on a line, that this here is going to be 0, that you are walking 3 units this way, and then you're walking 3 units this way. If I walk 3 units this way, it's going to land at 3, x equals to 3. If I land on this side, it's going to be x equals to negative 3. So the distance is going to be positive. So this part here is positive because you walked 3 units one way and 3 units the opposite way. And so that's what this means, that the absolute value is going to be 3 units away from whatever this is here. And in this case here, it's 0 because nothing's added or anything. It hasn't shifted anywhere. So here it's going to be 3 units one way, 3 units the other way. So in order to get rid of the absolute value signs, it just says that that we have x is going to equal to 3, or x is going to equal to negative 3. And so that's what we're talking about there. So in any other problem, such as the absolute value of p minus 7 is equal to another 3, that just means that you're going to walk 3 from whatever p minus 7 is equal to. You're going to walk 3 units one way and negative 3, or 3 units the other way, and it's going to land in a negative number, or in the opposite number. So we're going to have p minus 7 is equal to 3, or p minus 7 is going to equal negative 3. So those are the units. There are two separate things on the other side. Notice how the absolute values went away once I set it to what the definition of absolute value means, and that's the distance away from whatever point. So here we have p is equal to 10 and p is equal to 4. So if you notice, you get two answers because you're going in one direction and then you're going in the other direction. So whatever that is, if you go in the negative direction, you're going to land on 4, and if you go in the opposite direction, you're going to land on 10. So absolute value is always going to be two answers when it's an equal sign. If there's anything above, remember, absolute value is like a fortress. You cannot get in and you cannot get out. So if I have 8 minus 3 p minus 4 equals to 2, you cannot at all distribute the 3 in there and then add the 8 to it. You cannot go inside. You have to get rid of the absolute value before you could distribute anything in there. But in order for me to get rid of the absolute value, I need to be like it was up here, where it says the absolute value is by itself and then a number. So in order to do that, is what you want to do is move the 8 and the 3 over. So you're going to have negative 3 p minus 4 equals to 2. It's going to equal hold on, okay. It's going to equal negative 6. And then you're going to divide. Even though this is negative 6, it's still not the absolute value by itself. So you have to solve it first. And so you divide this side by negative 3, divide that side by negative 3. And so we end up with p minus 4. The absolute value is equal to a positive 2. So now the absolute value does equal a positive 2. If it had equaled something negative, then it would be a different answer, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. So in order to get rid of it, we say p minus 4 is equal to 2, p minus 4 is equal to negative 2, p is equal to 6, p is equal to 2. And so that is your answer for that problem. Now, if I had p, and I don't know why we're using p, but anyway, p minus 7, the absolute value, is equal to a negative 4. We know that the distance cannot be negative, so I can't go negative 4 units to the left, negative 4 units to the right. So it is just no solution. I cannot have absolute value equal to a negative number because distance cannot be negative. So that's just with inequality, an equal sign. an equation, let's do an inequality where we have greater than or less than. So the problems are pretty much the same. So if I said something like x minus 4, the absolute value is greater than 2, then what you need to do is you need to break it up the same way. So you're going to have the x, that's how you get rid of the absolute value. So it's going to be 2, and you're going to have negative 2. And then the one that's the positive one is always going to be exactly like the original equation. So in this case, it's pointing to the 2, so here it also has to be pointing to the 2. Here it's pointing to the 2, but with the negative, you have to flip it. So instead of pointing to the 2, it has to be pointing to the x minus 4. So that's when you flip that sign. And then you just solve it the same way. So then you add 4 to both sides. And then you have this to be 2 less than x less than 6. And we cannot have it in this format. Remember, an inequality has to have where it points always to the left. So you're always pointing to the left. So what it should be, if it was written as 2 less than x less than 6, you would be fine. See how they're pointing to the left and then they're opening to the right? This would be an acceptable answer. But that's not what that is. So what you have to do is you have to write it separately. Also remember that the 2 and the 6, it has to be from smallest number to biggest number. That right is correct there, but what's not correct is the inequalities. So you have to write it in two separate equations. So it has to be x is less than 2, and then x is greater than 6. So that is your answer. So when you graph it, you're going to have it at 2, you're going to have it at 6, so it's going to be an open circle. That might look like a closed circle. Hold on. So it's going to be an open circle because it's not equals to, and then it says it's going to be less than 2, and this is going to be greater than 6. The only time that you write this here, we call it the sandwich, is because it's everything in between. So it's going to be everything in between 2 and 6. So that would be, if we actually were to graph it, it would be everything in here. That's what this says, but this says something different. So that's the difference between the inequalities. So just remember, if it's pointing to the left, it has to be the smaller number on the left and the bigger number on the right, and then it's going to be everything in between. But if it's written any other way, you have to write it in two separate inequalities, and then the graphs are going to be everything outside of it. And so that's how you do inequalities on there. Okay?